Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for Woodwork Web. Today we're going to use the technique we talked about a video or so ago about how to make distressed looking wood, only now we're going to apply it to this great little antique looking ice box, and it's got a couple of shelves, so it's perfect for storage. But for anybody who wants something that looks like it came from an old barn and it's 100 years old, this is the perfect little piece. So stick around and let me show you what I did to build this great little antique looking ice box. Well, the next thing is to glue these all up now, and I'm going to try and glue them all together all at the same time. So we'll see how quick I can do this. If I can get the glue to come out. The next thing for me to do is to cut all of these cross member parts, the front, upper and lower front, and the sides. What I need to do is cut some tongue and groove in this so that when it goes in here, it will slide all the way down so that there will be a groove in each side and each piece will be able to fit one inside the other. So let's go over to the router and start setting that up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a tongue on 3 sides, and eventually I'll cut a groove on the back. And I'll do one, but I'm not going to make you sit through all 12 of these. Now I want to put the groove bit in. Now in the upper and lower sides, I need to cut grooves in the top and the bottom. And I've reset the height of the groove bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. And there's those legs with the stops and starts. This is the bottom, this is the top. Okay, I'm ready to start the assembly. I disassembled everything to put all of the finish on it, and I used a coat of dye and then 2 coats of shellac on top of it, and it's given me just a little bit of a sheen on there, which is just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do the assembly, and we'll speed this up because you've already seen the dry fit on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and we'll get things started here. Well, there's a quick look at the final assembly, and you can see these panels, how distressed that finish makes these look. So I'm pretty happy with this. What I'm going to do with this, if you can see this crack up here, you can see it's still moving a little bit. I'm going to put a very thin piece of plywood on the back of this, and that'll stabilize that, because when I put the door on, I don't want this to be moving around at any point. So we'll stabilize that little piece of distressing up there. Well, there's the top that I've already glued together, and I found one with some wood with a nice big nasty knot in it, so that's good. I'm going to put that at the back, because I think if somebody was making this, they'd want to move that towards the back rather than at the front. So I'm just going to square it off and cut it to size, and then we'll decide what we're going to do with the face here. One of the ideas I dreamt up for doing some distressing was to make a circular mark. So I've just got a sealer ring, and I've cut out an insert in it, and it's a little rough, and that's good. And we'll just do a little bit of burning. I'm going to go about making the door for this little cabinet now, and I'm not going to go into great detail on this in this video because I've already done another video that details how to make these doors. So I'll show you snippets of what it takes to put these together and how I did it. For the door, I'm going to be adding vertical panels instead of the horizontal panels that we have here. But before I do that, I want to make sure that the door is going to fit, first of all, and it does. It fits in there nice, and there's a little bit of space all the way around, so that's good. So now we need to add the panels, and we're going to do those on the router as well, the same as we did on the sides. Well, I'm making some good progress here. I'm now finishing up the door, and I've got all the pieces stained and a couple of coats of shellac on them. I'm just going to take a moment now to glue them up and put them all together, and I'm using my frame here to make sure that it's nice and square. And I'll have the back and a couple of shelves in there, and I'll show you what I did with the shelves in a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm just going to carry on here and do some of this assembly. But it's looking quite nice. I'm quite happy with the way this little distressed piece is turning out. Okay, let me take a minute to catch up on where we are. Now, we're going to have a couple of shelves in here, and this upper shelf is going to sit in here. And if you look closely, you'll see that I've just put in a little bar, and I put the same thing on the other side. This shelf will just sit on that bar, on those 2 wooden bars there. The other thing I have is, of course, a lower shelf in here, and what I've done for it, and I'm just going to install it off camera, but just so that you know, I've drilled pocket holes in it, and it will sit in here, and we'll show you that when it's done. Before I install this top, I just thought I'd give you a quick look at it before we put it on. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. These little burn marks look so natural, and this little half circle one up here. I just love the way the top looks. You can see it's pretty distressed looking, and I think it's going to look just excellent once we get that installed. I even have the back ready to go on. I'm just going to tack this on with some very small nails. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any hardware that looked like it was old hardware, so I'm having to go with this brass, and if I find something, I'll trade it up. Here's the catch that I have for the door, and you probably can't see it, but I've marked the midway point right there, and that's typically where you would think to put that clasp. But if you look at that, it probably looks like it's in the lower half of the door. It's an optical illusion that happens with putting hardware pieces on that are in the middle. So what we do to overcome that, we move it up just a little bit, and that way it's actually a little bit higher up than in the center, but it actually appears like it's in the center of the door. Well, that's it. That's our little ice box all finished. The distressed wood ice box. And we've got the little latch attached. The door fits on perfectly. There's a couple of shelves in there. The parallel panels in the side. And I used as much wood as I could that had knots and just sort of ugly wood that you would normally try and cut out, even to the crack in the front. And the other side, the same thing, lots of knots. And of course, the best place to look at furniture is when it's in its place. And of course, this is going to stand on the floor, and I do have it on the turntable still, but it's lower down so that you can see. And unfortunately, from where you're at, you can't see the top, because the top is the best part of this. But it functions well. It's going to make a nice little cabinet for somebody, and it looks like it's an old piece that somebody dug out of an old barn or something, and that's exactly what I want it to look like. You know, this is probably in the top 3 builds of anything I've ever made. This was hard to make in terms of distressing the wood and using wood that was cracked and had knot holes. It was just I just enjoyed every bit of making this. I would make another one in a minute. It's just a really cool little piece. It's not for everybody. It doesn't fit everybody's decor, but if anybody ever asks you, can you make something that looks like an antique from 100 years ago? This is how you can go about it. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.